This is the inside of a computer inkjet printer, and we're going to look at several components. We're going to look at two DC motors that feed paper into the printer and provide translation of the inkjet head. We're going to look at plastic digital encoders that are used to monitor the positions of those motions. We're going to look at the actual inkjet head and talk about how it works. And we're going to see some other features like a limit switch here that detects whether or not the lid is down. There's also a light tube that delivers light from an LED from a printed circuit board up to the front panel of the device. Paper is fed into the printer via this DC motor. It turns a small pinion gear which drives a larger gear, which in turn drives another reduction from a smaller gear to another larger gear. The first set of gears are helical gears. The reason why those are used is because they provide a much smoother operation and quieter, because you have more teeth in contact as the motor turns. On the end of the output gear is a plastic disc that has a pattern printed onto it. It's a pattern of very fine black lines that are oriented radially from the disc center out to the perimeter. This grid work of lines passes through a phototransistor at the base of the shaft that counts the lines as they go by. This is a very inexpensive way to manufacture a relative encoder. At the base of the disc you can see a black component that houses photoemitters, LEDs, and photoreceptors or transistors. And there's usually a set of two of these, so you can generate a quadrature output signal from this relative encoder disc. A second DC motor shuttles the inkjet heads. The motor drives a tooth belt, and as the motor turns, the belt moves and takes the print head with it across the paper. Instead of a plastic disc for a rotary encoder, here a linear encoder is used to measure the linear motion. Again, it's a long piece of plastic with a similar grid work of black lines printed onto it, and as the print head moves over the stationary plastic component, photosensors detect and count those slots as they go by, allowing the printer to measure and control this linear motion. This is a close-up of the inkjet cartridge. It consists of 3 reservoirs of colored inks, in this case magenta, cyan, and yellow, which form primary colors, allowing the printer to generate any color. The inkjet cartridge has a ribbon with a set of conductors that allow the printer to communicate to the components inside this cartridge. You can see all of the conductor connections here, and they are connected to components inside the cartridge here. This is the inkjet head, where there are piezoelectric components that dispense and propel droplets of the liquid ink onto the paper. So there are many sets of fine holes, much too small to see with the naked eye, that dispense these droplets of ink. Here's a close-up of the microswitch that detects whether or not the lid of the printer is closed. So when the lid is closed, the switch is depressed down. And we can also see an on-off switch, which also has an LED display on it. And the LED light is actually transmitted from a circuit board deep in the printer, in the back of the printer. And that's done through what's called a light tube. It's just a clear plastic component that transmits the light from the LED on the circuit board up to the front display. This clear plastic component is also serving another purpose of translating this mechanical motion back to a small microswitch on the circuit board.